Hello, I'm Nancy Smith Mattox. Hello, I'm Nancy Smith Mattox, and I'm so excited to be here again with Shine Your Light Radio Ministry on WYTV7 out of Charlotte. We're broadcasting both of us tonight are from Little Rock, so that's exciting. Have a very exciting guest here, and I want to wish everyone a happy new year. And I'm so excited to start the year 2019, and this is my first interview, my premiere interview for the year 2019. You're going to absolutely love it. It's going to be packed with a lot of good information that's going to really interest you. So I'm real excited about that. I would like to say that we are a nonprofit at WYTV7. We do take donations, and our donations are used to promote shows like mine and the other broadcasters, because we broadcast those internationally. So we're really trying to get the word out internationally to help people for whichever broadcast show is being shown. So keep that in mind as we're going through, and we would appreciate any donations. $5 goes a long way to advertising, so thank you. My guest tonight is Kimberly Rogers. She's from Little Rock, Arkansas. She is a college graduate, and she does have a master's degree. And she has a master's degree from college, and she has a master's degree from being incarcerated. So she's not shy to talk about that. She wants to talk about it. We both are activists in prison ministry and in Make for the Incarcerated Women. So without further ado, let me ask a few questions. Ms. Kimberly, start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and your testimony, where you were a while ago before being incarcerated.
Okay, well, I guess my journey would have started back in 1990. I became addicted to cocaine and crack cocaine. My addiction was a 12-year addiction, which eventually led me to commit crimes to support my drug habit. And then that led me, of course, to be incarcerated. I had a 23 and a half year sentence with 10 years suspended. So I had to serve time on 13 and a half years. I served 4 years in the Newport Women's Prison for robbery, burglary, theft of property, and 5 counts of forgery. I know for a fact that person was not me. I've been out of prison since 2005. I know that if I wouldn't have been on drugs, I wouldn't have put myself in those situations to be with people that committed those crimes, because I look at that person, I think about that person that I was back then, I think about that now, and I think, oh my gosh, how horrible, how could I have ever done things like that? But I have to keep in mind also that I was not in my right mind because of my drug addiction. My drug addiction was so powerful. It is unbelievable how powerful a drug addiction can be. It's hard for me to explain how powerful a drug addiction can be unless you've ever had one.
You know what? Your story is going to be 2 or 3-fold. You're going to come from a lot of different angles, and it could really help a lot of people. Part of our goal is to help young people not go down the same path that we did. Use our experiences, good and bad, to not go down that path. But then also you have the path of being incarcerated as a woman and the issues that happen there too. Yes, so that's a very profound statement that you made about you knew that wasn't you. That was the addiction that was causing you to commit all those crimes. And how many millions of people go down that route? They just, they become addicted to whatever. I mean, it could be alcohol, drugs, whatever, sex, could be anything they're addicted to, and they'll do some very, very bad things that get them in trouble, and because they go along that way. So that's a really, really a profound story that you tell, and it happened. How old were you when all this happened?
When I was on drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 1992, I was I would say I was probably about 23, 24 years old. And
so were you already married with children then?
I had 2 young children, and my husband was in prison.
Wow. My goodness.
Yes, I had two toddlers, a little girl and a little boy. And like I said, my drug addiction lasted 12 years. The end of my drug addiction is the day I walked into the prison. That was the end of my drug addiction. I was 35 years old when I went to prison.
Wow.
And I was
you had,
39 when I came out.
wow, wow. That's just amazing. And what happens to your children? And I ask this for a specific reason, because right now a lot of people are screaming about politically correct, how we're yanking children from their families, you know, on the border and all that. And I always say, what about the incarcerated people that lose their babies? Because you can't take your babies with you.
No, you can't.
I mean, so as far as I'm concerned, that's worse with the mass incarceration that we have and the children that are left without their parents.
Yes, ma'am. It's terrible because, like I said, their father was incarcerated also. So once I got incarcerated, which they didn't really have me all through my drug addiction anyway, you know, because at some point my drug addiction got so bad that I made the choice to turn them over to my family, to my mother and my stepfather, because I didn't want to take my kids in and out of crack houses and let them see the things that I was doing to get my drugs. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they were so young and impressionable. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it killed me. I just want people to know that there is something that is out there more powerful than you think, that there's nothing more powerful than a mother's love for her child. And you think, oh my God, how could she do that? But you know, my first thought was, I love them enough to leave them. You know, I didn't want to, I guess I loved drugs more in a way, but it wasn't a choice like that. It was a hard choice to make. I had to love them enough to let them go because I didn't want them to, they were so young. I mean, they were, I don't know, 6 and 4. And
I find that very interesting from your perspective, because you loved your drugs more, but you really loved your children more because you didn't put them through that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not, you wouldn't think, I mean, as a mother, like when I had my children, I never thought, you know, when you're holding that little baby in your arms, you think, oh my God, I could never love anything any more than loving this child. I would have never thought that drugs could have drugged me away from my children the way that they did. And it's,
but I think it's great that you had the, I don't know what the word is, maybe it's sanity, to get your children out of that environment and, you know, with their grandparents, because they could have taken care of them. And I believe that that they would probably forgive you for that sometime. Well,
you know, my son has, but my daughter, my oldest daughter, she struggles with the forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
There was times that I would go, you know, I would pop in and out of their lives, and I would go to my mom's and visit with them and stuff. And, you know, there was one time that I went for Christmas to visit, and I remember my daughter, she was probably 8 at the time, and she stood at the front door crying for me to stay and watch her open her presents, but I didn't have time to do that. My drug dealer was in the driveway waiting on me. So, you know, that vision of her standing at the front door screaming and crying for me to stay will never leave my mind. I have apologized for everything, just not a blanket apology. You know, I apologize for everything I ever did. I hate those kind of apologies because that's a blanket apology. I pinpointed everything. I'm sorry that I did this to you. I'm sorry that I did that to you. I'm sorry. You know, I wanted them to know that I was sorry for each thing that I did wrong. And she's having a problem with that. We don't have a very good relationship right now. I have 4 grandchildren by her, and I don't get to see them either because of our relationship. But, you know, one thing I learned in a program that I took in prison called Therapeutic Community, that sometimes we lose the things that are most precious to us because of choices that we've made in our past.
Well, that is true, but we do serve a graceful God.
Yes,
and
we
there
do.
is grace and there's hope.
And
And
I know
if you
he's
just keep,
forgiven me, and I know one day that relationship will be repaired. My daughter that I have now, my 11-year-old, she doesn't know a whole lot, but she's not dumb. I mean, she's heard me talk. She was at the meeting. You met her and my husband. She's very proud of the mom that I am. And I feel bad that Brittany and Brandon didn't get that same mom.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they deserved that, just like Ricky does.
And I know that, in their hearts of hearts, and when they finally do come around, they'll realize that you're being sincere and that you did the best for them. But let's move it along a little bit more. So you went to prison, and you served 4.5 years before
Yes,
you got out, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
let's talk a little bit about the conditions in the prison for women, and anything you want to share with us about that experience, because that's really where I'm trying to move to, is to make things better. And I'm also talking to a lot of juveniles that are still in prisons in Arkansas. They put juveniles in adult prisons. So I'm really on a cause for that too.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were old enough, you were of age when you went to prison.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you
I
can
was in
imagine.
my 30s. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your experience in prison. I know some of the information that I've been hearing is that you really didn't have the proper feminine supplies, and I'm sure you were mistreated by what I'm hearing. And
Yes.
tell us what you can tell us without getting you in any trouble.
Okay. Well, first of all, it was such a culture shock being admitted into the prison, intake. When you enter into the prison, they treat you like you're a stray dog or something. They spray you down. Well, you're stripped down naked right there in front of everybody else. There's probably 4 or 5 other women there with you, 2 or 3 guards, and you're stripped down naked. And they spray you down like with a water hose, throw like powder on you, like lice powder or whatever. And then they give you some clothes and you put them on, and then they take you and they cut all your hair off to about right
Are
here.
they women guards, Miss Kimberly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
that's
They're
good.
women guards.
It just sounds like they treat you worse than a dog is treated.
Inhuman. Oh yeah, it's so inhuman. And then they make you squat and cough, and I mean they get down between your legs and look up, like they're trying to do a doctor's examination almost. I mean they get their head down there where your private area is.
Are they afraid something's there that could hurt them?
I guess they're trying to look to make sure that you're not smuggling something in.
Could be smuggling drugs into
drugs, tobacco, and stuff like that. And then, in the pods, it's extremely bad in the pods.
You don't know what a pod is, okay?
A pod is a section. There's different pods. Like there's open pods and there's closed pods. The open pods is where the beds are all out in the open. Okay, there's no walls or anything. A closed pod is where you have a 2-man cell. Okay. And that's where the showers, that's where the guards are up here and can look down in every pod. Okay. And there's men guards up there. Okay. And in the closed pods with the 2-man cells, they have the completely open showers. There's probably 10 shower heads on each side. And you're in there with all the other women showering at the same time. There's no privacy. Them guards can see. There's curtains, but they don't close. Them guards can see you while you're showering.
And are there intermingling of the prisoners that are different offenses? Like,
Yes, you're in there with you're in there with everybody.
See, that's what concerns me. It seems like some should be in a high risk situation where if they could be a danger to someone.
Right. I mean, I was in.
You wouldn't have been a danger to someone. I mean, you didn't kill anybody or anything like that.
No, but I was in a cell with people that had killed people. You know what I'm saying? I was by the time I was getting ready to leave, I had earned all the way up to like a 1A prisoner. That's a prisoner. I earned the right to walk outside the prison gates by myself, and I could work out on the Sally Port, and I eventually went to a 309 program.
And tell us what that is, darling.
A 309 program is where you go to a county jail and you live there, and you I cooked for the police officers that ran the jail, and I lived there at the jail. That's a 309 program.
So you have to have a lot of discipline.
Yes, ma'am.
Not be a disciplinary problem in order to reach your goals to be what you want to be.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But when I was a 1A prisoner still at the Newport Women's Prison, I was in what they call the lifers pod. So I was in a pod with other women that had life sentences. And that just seemed very wrong to me, because here I am, I have a date. I'm going home. Them women are never going home. You know what I'm saying? They deserve their privacy, their own. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they did something to get there for life. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of them women, there was quite a few women that were in there for life for personally things that I don't think they should have gotten a life sentence for. One woman.
Well, I would believe that, because it seems like that they were so stern with the sentencing.
They were
back in those days.
I mean, Miss Nancy, there was one lady in there that was her husband abused her all her life, and she had just had enough and killed him, and she got a life sentence. She was a black woman.
Wow.
And I mean, the stories that she told me, the things that he did to her, she didn't deserve to be in there for life.
Right.
And then I know another lady that's got a life sentence that's in there. She was with her boyfriend. I believe it was like back in the 70s. She was with him, and some guy, something happened, and a guy that was with them jumped in the river and died. And just because she was with him when that happened, they charged her for murder too. And she has a life sentence because of that, because she was with him.
See, I have issues. I don't have any experience with this, and that's why I'm so happy you're sharing with us, because it does seem like to me there's degrees of crime.
Well, it is. And, you know, and if that certain crime there would have happened now, I don't think she would have gotten a life sentence. You know what I'm saying?
I hope so.
Because that was back in the 70s and 80s, you know?
Yeah, that's when it was really bad, in the 70s.
It was. And then, you know, back to the privacy part with us and women in prison. I remember one time I was, we were outside. They let us out for, you know, to go outside. And I was on my cycle. And I had to come back in because I didn't have any pads. You know, they won't let you take pads outside with you. So I had to come in, and so when I came in, they made me pull my pants down with my pad on and everything. And I had to tell them what I wanted, and they had to escort me back to my pod, to my cell, and I got a pad, and the one that I changed, they had to have it back.
Wow.
Yeah, why, I don't know. I guess they wanted to make sure that I didn't get something from outside from another prisoner and was bringing it in my pad or something, because I guess things like that.
Yeah, maybe, and that probably does happen.
Yeah, but you know, that's degrading to do.
Very degrading. But at least you had supplies. A lot of females and a lot of women in prison don't get the feminine supplies they need. Well,
they only give you seven pads.
Wow.
7 pads. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think it's a very worthy cause for us to, you know, for us to understand that and to do that. But I want to move on just a little bit more before we run out of time. You have an upcoming book that you're doing.
Yes,
Tell us
ma'am.
a little bit about that, because that's better news and a lot more exciting.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm very excited about that. The book is basically an autobiography about my life as a drug addict and what I went through during my drug addiction, and what I went through in some of my marriages with domestic violence. I've always had domestic violence in my life from every husband that I've had, except for my current one. I've been abused physically and mentally since I was 18 years old by men.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. And that is all in my book. I didn't hold back a whole lot in my book. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that I could have put more of. But I mean, not only was I abused by men, but you know, when I was out there on my own drugs, I was abused by men, you know, too.
Yeah.
I was raped, you know, 2 or 3 different times.
You're vulnerable when you're like that, you know,
Yes.
and they take advantage. But I think there should be another book you should be starting to think about, and that's your prison experiences too. That could
Yes.
be your second book. But I also want you to share a little bit about the here and now, where you are now and what's happening. You are having difficulties finding a job, even though you have a master's degree. Talk
Yes.
a little bit about that, because we only have a few more minutes, darling.
Okay. All right. Well, I earned my bachelor's degree at University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and I graduated magna cum laude, which is with honors. I graduated the top 5% of my class. With my major was sociology with a minor in criminal justice. I have a master's degree in human resources management from Strayer University. I just graduated with my master's in June, and I graduated with my bachelor's in 2015. I have not been able to find a job with either one of my degrees. I have a job right now. I'm an online sales rep. I work for Dillard's. You know, I make about $14 an hour. But my criminal past, which is 20 years old now, keeps me from getting any type of state job, which I'm qualified for. My bachelor's degree qualifies me for lots of state jobs because I would like to go into social work, and that's why I chose sociology.
You would think if it's 20 years old and it's 20 years behind you and you've done all that, and you hear this all the time, is that once you've served your time, it's over and done. But that's not true. There's definitely a correlation for having a past and being incarcerated and not being able to find a job when you're highly educated to have one.
Yes, ma'am. I still feel as if I'm incarcerated in a way.
That's so sad. That breaks my heart.
Yes.
Because, I mean, and that's why this show will really...
I feel as if I'm being held back, you know, still. You know, I came out here and rehabilitated myself through my education.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't know if it's because a program is not getting the notability for my success. You know what I'm saying? Because when I came out of prison, Miss Nancy, they didn't really have a lot of reentry programs.
Right. And you know what else, though? If you continue now that you've gotten your courage up and you start doing interviews and you start doing speaking engagements and speaking about things, people will notice you. People will take note. We'll have 1 million people probably watch this video and this show.
That'll be a blessing.
You know, but it might be something that might just jumpstart you, but you just can't do just one.
Yes, ma'am.
What I like to do is I like to set you up other speaking engagements, and you would be perfect to go into the prisons to speak to people about encouragement and encourage them to speak to young people so they hear real talk. That's what helps people, is hearing the real story. You know, they don't want to hear everything about roses and sunglasses and all that stuff. They want to hear the real story, because that's what keeps them from going down that path. So my prayer for you, Miss Kimberly, is that that you'll get more known, you'll get more popular, and people will see your worth, and maybe another good job will come up for you. I pray so. So can you tell us real quick how God's helped you?
Oh gosh, what? Oh, so amazing. I'm sitting here. That's how God has helped me. God has helped me be the person that I am today. God put me somewhere so he could keep me still long enough to speak to me, and because he knew that I wasn't supposed to be the person that I was, that drug addict that I don't know, that drug addict person that is a stranger to me. When I look back in my past, I cannot believe that I am that person. God saved me from myself. If it was not for God, I would not be here today. I know that without a doubt in my heart.
And how old is your precious little girl now, and how long have you been married to your husband?
My daughter is 11 years old, so God gave me a second chance to be a mother that I didn't get to be to the other two. My husband, I know him from the past, and he knows me from the past. We both have turned our lives around. We've been together since 2005, and we'll be married next month for 9 years.
Wow. Well, he's a beautiful soul too. So is your little girl. I met both of them. But we are almost out of time. But I thank you so much. I want to have you back again when the book is put out.
I would love that opportunity.
Talk a little bit more about that, and maybe we can generate some interest in your book and that kind of thing. That will also get you more speaking engagement. So that'll be a good thing. But I thank you so much for joining me tonight, and it's just been a real pleasure, and I know people are going to thoroughly enjoy this show, okay?
Thank you, Miss Nancy. God bless you.
Okay. God bless you, darling.
All right. Bye-bye.